Here's our clean main plate. Just use some brake clean and a microfiber towel. Give her a wipe down. So, looking at these instructions, we want to orient our mounting tab like that. That calls for hole A, large hole A and B with the .055 drill or provided drill provided. And that would be this guy and that guy. So, the one on the right here, that's A. And that one right there above that larger one, that's our B. And I've got a little piece of scrap 2x6 here. Just gonna lay it down, give it a good substrate to drill through. And if there's any burrs or anything on the other side, you definitely want to knock those down. You want this, I mean, this plate is the sealing surface between the valve body pads, so you want to make sure it's very smooth. Alright, so my normal go-to power drill, the chuck does not go small enough for this little guy, so I had to resort to the OG Craftsman guy, right angle drill bit. Just confirm that's our letter A. Easy peasy. And that's confirming that's letter B. Done. Alright, so this step, we've got the middle section of the valve body they call the upper. And this is the TCC relay valve repair. So this is, they show the A750 here, but it's similar enough that it applies. So there's, this is the valve, the TCC valve that they're talking about. And essentially, you're drilling and reaming the bores of a set number of walls to a new finish or new diameter that's fresh. Essentially, the old one wears the valve body or the valve, I'm not sure which, and then you start to have shift issues related to this valve. So this replaces that valve with a slightly upsized one from the drilling and reaming process. So they specify right here that there's 4 walls, and after removing your drilling, you need to drill slowly and count the walls you need to drill through. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it says stop going through, or stop after going through the 4th wall. So you're drilling first, second, third, fourth, and then stopping. And this correlates on my valve body right here. This would be the 1st wall, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And I'm gonna clean this off a little bit more and just mark that with a Sharpie. That way I'm 100% sure I'm not gonna drill too far. But I mean, it's pretty clear that once you get past that, there's, you know, the valve body is in a different circuit there. So the first step is to pull this valve out, but I still have all my check balls in. They are not metallic, at least they're not steel. I think they are some kind of polymer. So I'm gonna scoop those guys out. That way I can move this valve body up and around just in case I need to flip it upside down to get this guy out. But then finally, once you drill and ream, you gotta clean it. So there's not gonna be any way to clean it, you know, by maintaining it in this orientation. So these check valves are going to have to come out. I'm going to be ginger with them. I don't want to mar their surface. I've got a little pan there to put them in. So I got 10 check balls out. I think that's all of them. Now, I'm going to jump to cleaning this guy. Be right back. Alrighty. So to get this valve out, there's actually a retainer right here. You can, if this was a spring-loaded, you would push and then extract the retainer. But since this is not, you can just push it in slightly and use a magnet tool and pull that little retainer clip out. Place that in my tray over there. And now you should be able to essentially just use the small screwdriver to move it. Okay, so there is a spring-loaded section right through there. Oh, there it goes. So let's see, where's the next portion that I can... So I'm going to try to take tension off this plug by just wedging that there, keeping the valve and the spring assembly up here off of this plug, and maybe I can get in here and work it out. Yep, got it. So basically, I was just, finding that groove that, or not the groove, but finding that perfect tilt so that this guy, this little plug, would slide out. So now, I'm going to relieve some pressure off that spring, pull that guy out, and we should be able to just slide valve out. This is what they call the outer valve. So again, I'm just trying to find points where I can get the pick in and push from the back. I'm already using this valve, so I don't want to mar it up. Just enough through any of these circuits that I can now grab the end and slide her out. Alright, there's our outer valve. There's the cup for the spring that was in there. So, we should be able to get our inner TCC relay valve and slide her out. Looks like the spring is an issue. Alright, so just giving a little tap, the whole spring and valve assembly slides out. Looks like my spring has a red paint on it. We are going to reuse that. Alright. So, this guy in the tray. So here are the two tools for the next step. This is the drill bit. It has its own sleeve, and the instructions say that it can be installed into this sleeve on either end. It does get kind of tight as you go down, but you should ideally not be that far into it. And then this guy is our reamer, and that's what actually puts a really fine finish on the bore of this part of the valve body, and that's where the new bushing and relay valve will ride, is on that fine finish surface. So this is the second part of this step. The first part is the drill. So this sleeve actually gets installed into the valve body until it bottoms out, and its outer diameter is the same as the components that came out, so it fits within the valve body, and it keeps this drill bit aligned and square to the hole. I thought that was pretty nifty considering people are going to be doing this with hand tools. So that's awesome. We've got our major landmark there, and it wraps around. That's our hole 1. Well, this guy is dead. New Sharpie it is. Sharpie 2. Alright, there's hole 1, or wall 1. And then we've got our gap, which we wrapped around from our landmark. This is wall 2. And then we've got these 2 chambers here. That's 3. And then our final 4th wall, which we do drill through, right there. And after that we stop, because the circuit for this guy stops there. So there is a fairly large boss in the casting down here. And that's what we're going to be drilling out in that 4th wall for the most part. So now, got the drill and the drill guide. Slide it in until it bottoms out, which is, looks like it's bottoming out on the 1st wall. I'm actually going to pull the drill bit out just to make sure that's seated. And it is. I can see that it's seated. I'll reinsert the drill bit just to get an idea of depth. And it looks like there's plenty of shaft to drill those 4 walls. I would hope so, since it's a kit. So let me grab my larger drill. Well, not the larger, but not my right angle drill. And I'll prop this up. Let's see, like this. Oh, I just noticed something. This little retainer fell out. Looks like this guy right there. So be very mindful when you're working with this valve body that these retainers don't fall out when you're manipulating and cleaning. I'm really happy that it fell out here and not in over the can I was working on spraying this thing down, because that would have sucked trying to go through a trash can to dig that out, but I'd have to do it. Alright, so we want space for the drill, the chuck, the drill. I don't really want to try to clamp this into a vise, because the mating surfaces here, I just want to send it on the tailgate. Alright, while looking for oil, I managed to find some cutting oil, and this is actually a little bit stickier type of cutting oil that'll stick to walls and for cutting threads, but should be perfect for this. Now that I can't see the Sharpie marks. It's a great time. Alright, there. Alrighty. Point of no return. Whoop, there, it did say slow. That was the first wall. Second wall, moving into the third. Punch through the third, and now we're going for the fourth. This is the longest one, almost through. And we're through. Let's start backing it out. There we are. Okay, so using brake clean, bad idea. Here's a lessons learned for us. I mean, it cleaned the oil, the cutting oil, got the chips out, but as you know, I had it sitting in this type of orientation. As I'm spraying, the fluid isn't, removing the chips. It's just carrying the chips down, and they basically just went into every circuit below the point of drilling. So, and there's actually a couple here. I'm going to go through this through a manual visual inspection here with a pick and pull out any that I see, and then I'm going to hit it again with air. Well, I'm going to hit it for the first time with air to get any ones that I can't see out, and then I may, I mean, I'll have to see how this assembly works together, but I may even pop this valve out just to be sure I didn't get anything stuck in the nooks and crannies that I can't get out with air or the brake clean. So I'm gonna hit it with air. I mean, like I said, I'm gonna do the manual and pull of chips like that little guy, and then I'm gonna hit it with air, do a visual inspection again, and if I still feel uneasy about this, then I'm gonna pull that apart. So the air works amazing. Like I said, I did a manual pull out of chips that I could see from a visual inspection, and I pulled out probably close to 8 or 9, most of them being fairly decent sized chips, and then came with the air nozzle, and actually a few more came out. So there was a few in there that were completely hidden from sight, and I went through all the circuits and orifices from about here over, and I didn't have anything come out over here other than some fluid. So I'm fairly confident. I feel okay by not removing that valve, at least for now. We'll see what happens after the reaming process. I may reconsider. I reserve that right. All right, so the instructions for the reamer, they've got a hold stepped end, so that's this guy right there. So that's we're actually going to hold that with a pair of pliers or something during the reaming process. It says insert the reamer shaft into the large end of the guide, which is where the guide bushing, the side without the step. Insert into the bore until the bushing bottoms out. So we want that orientation so that, just like the drill bit, our reamer's there, and it's actually stepped so the reamer doesn't fall out. But the intent is to start that process real slow. And it says turn the reamer at slow speed with drill motor. Use very light, steady pressure while reaming. Do not use force. So you just want to let the reamer do its job. Let it do its, what it wants to do naturally. Just let it do its thing. Let's see. You can use ATF motor oil or to lube reamer, but cutting oil works best. So good there. The slower you do the step, the better. Stop drill motor after reamer goes through the 4th wall. So our 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're at the end of our circuit there. That's where we're going to stop. It makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go ahead and fill. I'm going to just go a little crazy on this. Put some cutting oil on that and just load it. So I want this, actually, I'm going to put it along all of the flutes. This stuff looks like expanding foam. I'm going to pull it back into the sleeve. Insert the sleeve again. Bottoms out. That's where it bottoms out there. Alright, I think that'll do. Alright, here we go. It is cutting. I can see some chips. fourth wall. All right. Cool. Right there. Now those chips are much, much finer because the reamer isn't like a drill bit. The reamer is, it's more like an end mill. You're putting a fine finish on that diameter of the bore. So same cleaning process. I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna try to scoop as much out manually with the pick. Since the cutting oil's clumped it all together for me. Then I'm gonna hit it with air, and then I'm gonna hit it with brake clean, and then I'll do another once over on the whole area just to be sure no more chips pop up. And then we'll move on to step 3, which is to put the new assembly in. So the chips from the reamer were much more difficult to get out of the systems, out of all the circuits. They basically went everywhere. The cutting oil did the same thing in the brake fluid. It tracked it into other circuits when I hit it with the air. But I did scoop out a lot with the pick, and that was a good move. I ended up putting a microfiber towel right next to the valve body and scooped it up and around so I didn't drop any in any of these other circuits. However, I was feeling a little uneasy because those chips are smaller about this valve, and sure enough, right here in this circuit, in the cup where the valve or the spring seats, I have a visual on some chips now that there's a plug right here. Push the plug in slightly, and then the retainer clip was in that spot there, and I'm just doing like the other and moving the valve out towards the outside of the valve body, until I can grab it. And there we are. There's a couple chips right there, little guys, as I'm holding it over the rest of the valve body. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and clean that circuit, clean the valve, spring, and then we'll start on the reassembly for the initial valve, the TCC valve, or TCC relay valve. So this guy was in this circuit right here. This guide for the spring is part of the valve, so it's easy. Hold the valve up or the valve body up like this, the spring will stay upright. Slides all the way in, and then our plug, push that there. And when I push it down, we'll see the channel open up there, and I can drop in the retainer, and it's done. Now for the new bits, we're using the plug, retainer, the outer valve, spring, but we're going to provide a new inner TCC relay valve and bushing. So here we go. Here's our new TCC relay valve. So this little bushing drops down into the number 4, or the third chamber here at the third and fourth wall, and it will engage that relief in the valve to keep it in place. So that's the bushing that we reamed to get that perfect finish to this, so this can engage that finish. So this is pretty simple stuff. I'm looking at the diagram for double checking orientation of all the pieces. We've got 3 dots or relief, 3 dots or relief or holes, and then on the inner valve we've got our smaller diameter, larger diameter, and then spring guide. So exactly how it came in the bag is how it should go in. So these need to go in first. So I'm gonna go ahead and just try Drop them in place. And just like taking out, so alright, let's see, install the new valve, new bushing insert in the board, install new bushing retainer, install original spring. Okay, so it doesn't say anything about the orientation of those holes, so I'm betting that they're gonna, I'm betting since they're through holes, it doesn't matter the direction. But like I was saying, just like taking it out, we can actually come in through here and get that to engage that diameter. Yep, sliding in. And we're almost there. I've bottomed out my screwdriver, but it looks like the relief is right there. I can use that, and I can use these small holes and the pick and maneuver this piece into place. Okay, so the holes align with these channels and then are landmarked from the initial drilling location. That aligns there. So our next piece is our new retainer. That just drops right on in. And it's flush. It's actually below the surface, so that's good. Now, we need our spring. So this is the old TCC relay valve. We're not going to use that part, but we are going to use our spring and the outer valve. Now I'm going to go ahead and spray this down because it was in my parts tray. A little dirty. It's got some bits on it, probably from blowing out the other parts. So I'll clean that up and throw that in. So the side with the nipple goes out, our spring goes in the cup, and for this I'm actually going to hold the valve body like this, just like the other one. Ooh, running away. I'm gonna try to engage the spring guide on the TCC valve. So the spring is catching on some of the bores, but that's because it's not perfectly straight up and down. And okay, now I can see through that slot right there. You may not be able to see it, but I can see the spring engaging the spring guide on the new TCC relay valve. And just like the other plug that we looked at, this guy goes in, and I don't think these are directional. I haven't seen any indications to tell me that they were. And that is again a tight fit. So let's see if our guide will go into place. Right there. And let's do a double check. Make sure we can't push that in anymore. And I'll use my flat head here. Just put a little pressure towards the outside. Yep, I just saw that retainer clip move, which means the plug has engaged it. So, page 3, done. Good to go. Let's move on to the next page. More fun, more fun.